Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today I thought we'd round out the week by continuing our theme of conversations on the Star Child, as we discuss perhaps how Caliban could be the hiding place the Emperor chose. Now, a general spoiler warning to begin here, as today we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe. And just before we dive in, this week I've begun working on our next week special, which is coming soon. A week dedicated to the Imperial Fists, the Sons of Rogel Dawn. However, with that out the way, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so over the course of this week, we've discussed the origins of the Star Child. How, to me at least, it seems all but certainly to be the severed part of the Emperor's soul from the Siege of Terror. The part of his more loving, caring emotions he separated and cut away so he could face his son Horus Lupercal. A part of his own soul he sent away out into the void. If you missed our chat on Monday, definitely go back and give that a listen. And we then discussed how surely this is the truth of Russ's quest, and whatever actions Valdor was instructed to undertake in the aftermath of the heresy, the reasons they both disappeared from the Imperium, that it must surely revolve around this, the shard of the Emperor's soul. That this would be the key to healing the Emperor, the reality of the Tree of Life rumours Russ left for. And well, that all leaves us on where did the shard of the Emperor's soul go? Where did he send it? The answers are kind of limitless really, definitely worthy of a larger conversation. Maybe it's as simple as the warp. However, given the time and setting, that would have been a pretty risky move by the Emperor, to just cast it out onto the tides of the Immaterium at the very depth of the Siege of Terror, a time when chaos was truly at the height of its ascendancy. But hey, equally so, given that situation, maybe the Emperor had no other option. We'll definitely have a larger conversation on it one day. However, there is one possible location that has come to mind. One possible hiding place. And that is Caliban. No, not the literal Caliban, the physical planet that was the home of Lionel Johnson and the Dark Angels, which was obviously destroyed, but instead the mysterious forest of Caliban that Lionel Johnson awoke in some 10,000 years later. The forest pathways that he uses to traverse from one region of the galaxy to the other. The echo of Caliban that the Watchers in the Dark referred to as home. We don't know for sure what this Caliban is. We most likely never will. However, there are some things we do know. The first is that it absolutely has to be a psychic power of L. Johnson's that allows him to navigate to and from this realm. It's a power he doesn't fully understand himself right now, but it's clearly a psychic power nonetheless. For example, within Son of the Forest, we saw him sit to meditate within a room and successfully return to the Forest of Caliban. We also know that it is an actual place in a sense. No, not a physical planet, but with L. Johnson taking people through the forest on his journey, even normal baseline humans, we know it's not some imagination of his mind. It has to be a literal physical place. And if not a physical place within the material galaxy, That leaves the warp as the most likely answer. That this Caliban realm is an echo hidden within the Immaterium somewhere. Or maybe it's some kind of sub-realm, a world between worlds akin to the Webway. Maybe that's why Vashtor's creation of Wormwood, the mockery of Caliban that once was, is able to, it appears, traverse akin to the Webway. Why, in my opinion, there is most likely a war being fought off-screen between the Eldari and Chaos right now. One that we'll eventually get to see. That could explain the Emperor's interest in the original Caliban, a world clearly tainted by the warp, but one he chose to base a legion on nonetheless. And in speaking of the Emperor, we know he, in some fashion at least, must have visited this other realm of Caliban, due to the very clearly described imperial buildings created within the forest, different from the native Caliban-esque castles, and that within this building there was a test left for El Johnson to face, that took the form of his brothers, a test that the Watchers in the Dark not only knew about, but knew when El Johnson wasn't ready for it yet. A test that, once done, rewarded the Lion with the Emperor's shield. 100% absolutely, in my mind, a test left by the Emperor for El Johnson to unlock once he had reached this psychic potential. Or possibly preparations made for the next war against Chaos, the one 10,000 years in the future. In truth, most likely both. And well, in knowing the Emperor knew and knows of this Caliban realm, a realm seemingly safe from the ruinous powers, could he possibly have sent that shard of his soul here? If it would indeed grow to become the Star Child, was it here the Emperor sent it? Well, I'm certain Russ's quest has to relate to the Star Child in some way, or at least I strongly feel that way, and I don't see how that could work with it being safely hidden here, unless somehow Russ couldn't make it. Heck, we know time works differently in the Eye and in the Warp. Maybe Russ simply hasn't made it there yet. To him, he'll only have been gone a short while, same as the traitor legionaries. But it's unlikely. A Russ-Caliban connection doesn't really work. And I feel so strongly he must have been sent away to have something to do with the healing of the Emperor, that has to involve the Star Child, that I find it hard to think it could in fact be here within Caliban. However, we not only have the evidence the Emperor knows of this realm, has most likely in some way been here, but we also have that mysterious wounded king in the forest. The corpse-esque, aged, bleeding and dying king with a golden crown, circled by shadows, that the Lion encountered twice in the forest. A king that seemed to recognize El Johnson, but couldn't focus his attention on him, which according to the Watchers in the Dark was because the Lion didn't ask the right question. And in their last encounter, the king teleported the Lion away when the shadows came after him, all strongly implying to me that this wounded king is some version of the Emperor. Now, why doesn't El Johnson realise it's an aspect of his father? If indeed it is, well, I don't know. But in being gone for 10,000 years, he's got no idea of the corpse his father's body has become, and I certainly can't think he'd ever be able to envisage it. Sure, he saw the Emperor upon the throne in the aftermath of the siege, but even as wounded and broken as the Emperor was there, he still would have looked like a man, not a nigh-on skeleton. And so, is it possible this wounded king in the forest of Caliban is that separated part of the Emperor's soul? That it was this mysterious realm of Caliban that the Emperor sent it to? Well, you have to say it's certainly possible, and would make far more sense than the Emperor simply casting it out onto the tides of the warp. That he would instead send it somewhere he knew it could be safe. A place where maybe he hoped his son Lionel Johnson would be able to protect it, or at least find it one day. A son whose loyalty he never doubted. That does make a lot of sense to me. Why wouldn't the Emperor send it here? I mean, we literally have someone that gives all the appearances of being some aspect of the Emperor. It's incredibly possible this is that severed shard of his soul, if not incredibly likely. The only thing that gives me pause is really the Star Child aspect. The Star Child, as we know, is something that's grown in power, and I just can't get around that shard of the Emperor's soul not being the future Star Child. The tease within the end and the death is just too coincidental in its description for me, like a child star. And there's no way I can ever believe that that wasn't 100% intentional. I've got to believe the author Dan Abnett knows exactly what he's doing there. And well, if this king in Caliban's forest is the shard of his soul, and thus the Star Child, why would it appear on the verge of death? Shouldn't it look powerful? Have the Emperor's radiance pouring out of it? I think it would. So it leaves me with only two possibilities really. One, the shard of his soul the Emperor separated off is not the future Star Child. The reference in the end and the death was a tease and nothing else. And indeed he did send it to this realm of Caliban. That the wounded king is indeed that soul shard of the Emperor. Or two, as much as it appears to be an aspect of the Emperor within this Caliban, it simply can't be this piece of the Emperor's soul, as it's clearly not the Star Child, which that soul shard was teased to eventually grow to be. I guess it all falls down to which option sounds the more likely to you. But as always everyone, what do you think? Could either of these options be possible? Could the Emperor have sent his soul to this echo of Caliban? Would it make sense he'd try to protect it? Or given the situation at the time, did he have no other option? Did he simply just send it away with nothing but hope? Is the wounded king in the forest the severed shard of the Emperor's soul, but not the Star Child? Is it both, or neither? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.